picture this massive contrast for a second. The U.S. kitchen and housewares market is, well, it's a $90 billion industry.
Yeah, it's absolutely massive.
Right. It's a behemoth of a sector. And it's growing steadily at like 4 to 6% every single year. Because, I mean, everyone have a kitchen.
Exactly. Everyone cooks. Or, at least they try to.
Yeah, exactly. So logically, everyone who's looking to start an online business thinks they can just sell kitchen gear.
Yeah.
The online gurus pitch it as this foolproof plan, right? Like you just find a supplier overseas, slap a slick minimalist logo on a frying pan, run some trendy social media ads, and then boom, you just sit back and watch the money roll in.
And it is a graveyard of failed stores. I mean, e-commerce entrepreneurs get totally blinded by the sheer size of the market. They completely ignore that the kitchen category is probably one of the absolute easiest places to lose every single dollar of your investment.
Oh, wow. Really?
Oh, absolutely. The physical reality of the product simply does not match the digital fantasy of selling it,
Welcome to the deep dive. Whether you are actively plotting your own e-commerce side hustle, or you are simply a curious learner who wants to understand the hidden high-stakes mechanics behind those beautiful, aesthetic cookware ads constantly flooding your Instagram feed, you are in the right place.
We're so glad you're here.
Today, we are decoding how modern internet businesses actually operate. We are unpacking a highly detailed, comprehensive 2026 playbook for launching a profitable Shopify cookware brand from absolute scratch.
Yeah, we are diving really deep into the actual architecture of these businesses. We're breaking down the brutal unit economics of heavy products, the gritty realities of navigating global supply chains, and the exact marketing stack that actually converts a mindless scroller into a paying customer.
Which is the holy grail, right?
Exactly. And we'll also cover why your initial niche selection dictates the survival of literally everything else you do.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because you can't start a business without a product. But picking what to sell requires fundamentally understanding who you are competing against. If you try to sell like a little bit of everything to everyone, you are picking a fight with a giant you simply cannot beat.
You really can't. I mean, the era of the generic 50 SKU kitchen store is totally dead and buried.
Yeah.
Just imagine launching a Shopify site today that sells a random assortment of, I don't know, wooden spoons, generic aluminum pots, maybe a few basic measuring cups. You are forcing yourself into direct competition with Amazon.
And Amazon has billions of dollars invested in logistics.
Right. You cannot beat them on price, you cannot beat them on selection, and you certainly cannot beat their 2-day or same-day shipping speed. If your brand's only value proposition is, we are cheaper than Amazon, you have already lost the game before you've even paid for your domain name.
So if you can't go broad and fight the giant, you have to go incredibly narrow. The playbook we're looking at heavily emphasizes this strategy of the sub-niche.
Yes. The sub-niche is everything.
Instead of outfitting the whole kitchen, you focus on, like, Japanese single-bevel knives. Or maybe you go all in on non-toxic, PFAS-free ceramic cookware. Or premium heritage cast iron. You pick one very specific, highly targeted wedge.
And when you carve out that specific wedge, you aren't just selling a piece of metal to fry an egg. You are selling a very specific story to a very specific, highly passionate buyer.
Right.
A generic spoon doesn't have a passionate fan base. But a hand-forged Japanese chef's knife absolutely does.
The sources outline some incredible case studies of brands that mastered this exact wedge. Take the brand Our Place, for example.
Oh, perfect example.
Right. They didn't launch a massive 50-piece catalog. They launched the Always Pan with this core promise that this single item replaces 8 different pieces of traditional cookware. And they wrapped that single product in like beautiful lifestyle photography.
Yeah.
And a very strong cultural founder story.
Where you look at Great Jones, they realized that legacy brands like Le Creuset, which are, very high quality, but they felt a bit stiff and traditional to younger buyers.
Yeah, a bit old school.
Exactly. So they went aggressively millennial first. They leaned into vibrant colors, playful personality, and they even named their flagship Dutch oven the Duchess.
I love that name.
Right. It's clever. And then you have Maiden, who went the complete opposite route. Their wedge was serious, restaurant-grade quality with entirely transparent factory sourcing. They don't just sell you a pan, they tell you the exact multi-generational French or Italian factory that stamped the steel.
But I have to push back on this a bit. Isn't picking just a single hero item incredibly risky for a new founder? I mean, think about it. If I have a generic catalog with 50 different items, I have 50 separate chances to catch someone's eye and make a sale.
Sure, that's the common logic.
So I only sell one brightly colored Dutch oven. Why am I putting all my eggs in one basket?
Well, what's fascinating here is the underlying paradox of choice, especially when you factor in modern ad mechanics.
Okay, tell me more.
So, a focused one-hero SKU brand wins on platforms like Meta and TikTok because the creative is hyper-focused. When you run ads for a generic store with 50 random items, the advertising algorithm gets really confused.
Doesn't know who to show it to.
Exactly, doesn't know who your ideal customer is. But when you feed the algorithm one specific, highly differentiated product, like a bright pink millennial Dutch oven, it can lock onto the exact demographic cluster that engages with that aesthetic.
Wow.
Yeah. The data in the playbook shows that this single product focus actually lifts conversion rates 2 to 3 times higher compared to a messy generic catalog. Kitchen buyers aren't just buying a tool, right? They are purchasing an aspiration. They're buying the lifestyle that the specific tool represents.
So you found a focused niche that people actually care about. You have your beautiful aesthetic, your gorgeous photography, and a compelling story.
Yep, you ready to go?
But passion doesn't pay the freight bills. And this brings us to the unforgiving physical reality of cookware. It is incredibly heavy, and it is bulky. And that simple, inescapable physical fact dictates the entire financial model of the business.
It really does. The playbook formalizes this into what it calls the 50% rule. If your contribution margin isn't over 50%, paid ads will simply not work.
And to be clear, we are talking about the margin left over after you have paid for the cost of goods sold, the custom packaging, the inevitable returns, and the credit card processing fees.
Everything, yes.
I was genuinely shocked by the math here. The hidden costs are staggering. The playbook tells founders to model in an 8 to 12% return rate right out of the gate.
Yeah, because people buy a heavy pan, decide it's just too heavy for their wrists, and they ship it back.
And the outbound freight cost for shipping a heavy cast iron skillet or a Dutch oven, you are looking at $12 to $25 per order just in postage.
It's brutal. Plus, you have to realize that the industry average e-commerce conversion rate is a sobering 1.4%.
That is so low.
That 1.4% metric is the reality check most founders just completely ignore. If 100 people click your ad, 98 of them leave your website without buying anything.
But you still had to pay Mark Zuckerberg for all 100 of those clicks.
Precisely. Your math has to be profitable at that 1.4% reality, not at some optimistic 5% fantasy you made up in a spreadsheet.
Here's where it gets really interesting. A lot of beginners see these brutal costs and think they can outsmart the system by drop shipping.
Oh, the classic trap.
They look at a site like AliExpress, where you don't have to buy inventory up front. But drop shipping heavy cookware is essentially like building a house on quicksand. It's pitched online as the zero-risk golden ticket.
Yeah.
But let's look at the failure state. Your customer waits 3 weeks for a cheap generic pan to arrive from overseas.
Which is already a bad experience.
Right, and when it finally gets there, it's in a crushed cardboard box. They try to sear a steak, and because the metal is thin and cheap, the pan literally warps on the stove. Everything burns. They are furious. So they leave a scathing 1-star review.
And that 1-star review is a death sentence. On platforms like Meta, if your customer feedback score drops below a certain threshold, they don't just charge you more for ads, they permanently shut down your ad account.
Wow. So it's just game over.
Your entire revenue stream evaporates overnight. Furthermore, drop shipping generic kitchen gear usually only yields a 15 to 25% margin, which is, well below that 50% survival rule.
Which means the actual sweet spot for building a real cookware brand is private label, manufacturing your own distinct product in China or the US, where you can actually achieve those necessary 50 to 65% margins.
Exactly.
Let's actually banter through the brutal unit economics of a $99 cast iron skillet just to prove how quickly the money disappears.
Oh, let's do it. It's a great exercise. So you sell the skillet to the customer for $99. Your landed cost of goods sold, meaning the cost to manufacture it and get it across the ocean to your warehouse, is minus $22.
Okay, so we're at $77. Still feels pretty good.
Yeah.
But we need custom packaging and insert cards so it doesn't look cheap.
Right, because of the aspiration. So that custom packaging costs you another $4.50. Now the killer, that heavy outbound freight to ship the skillet from your warehouse to the customer's front porch is minus $14.
Nice. Down to $58.50. And Shopify and the credit card companies are going to take their cut, which is about $3 for payment processing.
Yep, and we cannot forget the returns. You absolutely must hold back a 10% return reserve on every sale to cover the inevitable refunds. So that's another $9.90 gone.
So, wait. After we subtract the manufacturing, the boxes, the heavy shipping, the credit card fees, and the return reserve, out of that initial $99,
Yeah.
our contribution margin is just $45.60.
Right.
Roughly 46%. We're under the 50% rule before we've even run a single advertisement.
Now you see the trap. Your target customer acquisition cost, what you pay the ad platforms to get that one buyer to actually convert, is roughly $30. Subtract that $30 from your $45, and you are left with just $15.60 in actual profit on that first order.
That is razor thin.
It really is. If a founder skips calculating the freight cost or ignores the return reserve when they build their initial spreadsheet, they will literally spend their way into bankruptcy while thinking they are profitable.
So the spreadsheet math might theoretically work, assuming you actually accounted for the heavy postage. But those numbers only stay true if you can get the physical product made, shipped, and past government regulators without getting scammed. I mean, how do you even know if a supplier on the other side of the world is legitimate before you wire them thousands of dollars?
This is where operations and compliance become your entire world. If you're using a platform like Alibaba to find a supplier, it looks like a simple search engine, but it is fraught with middlemen. The playbook outlines a really strict methodology. You don't just search and buy. You shortlist verified suppliers, send out detailed requests for quotations, and you verify their legitimacy using external supply chain tools like Sayari or Panjiva.
For the listener who hasn't used those tools, Sayari and Panjiva are platforms that track global shipping manifests, right? Like you can actually look up a Chinese factory's name and see if they have a history of shipping actual shipping containers to real reputable brands in the US rather than just taking their word for it.
Precisely. You verify they actually export what they claim to export. Once verified, the next critical step is ordering samples, but the playbook explicitly warns against asking for free samples.
Because you get what you pay for.
Exactly. In the manufacturing world, a free sample usually means the factory is just pulling generic, low-quality catalog junk off a shelf to appease you. Paying $50 to $200 for a custom sample guarantees they are spinning up their machinery to make the product to your exact specifications.
And you can't just look at it when it arrives. You have to really test it. Put it on a high BTU burner, sear a steak, run it through a heavy-duty dishwasher cycle 10 times, drop it on the floor to see if the handle snaps.
You have to try and break it. And then comes the negotiation phase, which introduces the dreaded MOQ, the minimum order quantity scam.
Oh, right. Let's talk about this.
So if a factory quotes you an MOQ of 5,000 units, and you tell them you only want 500, and they immediately agree without raising the unit price, they aren't actually a factory.
They are a trading company. A middleman.
Yes. A trader is quietly marking up your per unit price by 10 to 25% just for connecting you to the real factory. You have to cut them out by verifying you are speaking to the actual manufacturer through live video tours of the factory floor or deep diving into their business licenses.
But let's say you navigate Alibaba perfectly. You find a great legitimate factory, you negotiate a fair price, the sample is flawless. You still aren't in the clear. Because kitchen products touch the food we eat, and that triggers a massive, highly enforced regulatory layer that most new internet founders completely ignore until it's too late.
Compliance is simply non-negotiable. In the U.S., any product that touches food falls under FDA 21 CFR regulations, which dictate exactly what materials can safely come into contact with human meals. And if you are selling to anyone in California, you are dealing with Proposition 65.
Let's break Prop 65 down, because this is terrifying for a small business. Prop 65 is a California law requiring consumer warnings on products that contain chemicals linked to cancer or reproductive harm. And earlier we mentioned PFAS-free cookware.
Yeah, the forever chemicals.
Right. PFAS are those controversial forever chemicals used in old-school nonstick pans that everyone is terrified of now. If you put the words non-toxic or PFAS-free on your Shopify store and you don't have proof your pan is clean, private bounty hunter lawyers in California will actively buy your product, test it, and sue you for $2,500 per item per day.
It will bankrupt a startup instantly. You cannot just slap buzzwords on your website and call it a day. Securing those third-party lab tests costs anywhere from $800 to $2,500 per SCO.
Just for the tests.
Just for the tests. And it's not just the legal system you have to worry about. If you claim your pan is PFAS-free without uploading lab proof, ad reviewers at Meta and TikTok will flag your account for deceptive practices and disable your ads.
So you pay for the lab tests. You pass FDA and Prop 65. You might think you're finally ready to scale, but you're about to run headfirst into a massive delay regarding the operational timeline.
The lead times.
From the moment you wire the money for a purchase order to the day the inventory actually arrives at your U.S. warehouse via ocean freight, you are looking at a 12 to 16-week lead time.
Ships move slowly and ports get backed up. It is a slow, lumbering, physical process.
Wait a second, this ties perfectly into something from the playbook called the viral SKU trap. Every single founder launching a brand today dreams of going viral on TikTok. Millions of views, thousands of orders pouring in overnight. Why does the playbook call a 10x spike in sales a trap?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it all comes back to cash flow and the inescapable physics of supply chains. A 10x spike in sales sounds incredible on a Tuesday, right? You sell out of all your inventory in 48 hours because a video took off.
Sounds like a dream.
But remember that 12 to 16-week manufacturing and shipping lead time. That viral moment just bought you 14 solid weeks of total stockouts.
Wow, you literally cannot sell anything for a quarter of the year.
It completely kills the brand's momentum right at the exact moment it peaks. You can't run ads, you can't fulfill orders, and by the time your new inventory finally arrives by ocean freight 3 months later, the internet's incredibly short attention span has completely forgotten about you.
That's devastating.
It is. Virality without a rock-solid, well-funded supply chain to back it up is actually a curse.
Okay, so let's assume you survive the supply chain physics. You didn't go bankrupt on a viral spike. You have a compliant, beautifully made, highly profitable product sitting safely in a third-party logistics warehouse in the U.S. The final hurdle is getting a total stranger, mindlessly scrolling on their phone, to stop, look at your website, and actually hit add to cart.
Which requires deeply understanding the psychology of the kitchen buyer. The playbook describes them as operating in a dual mode.
Dual mode?
Yeah. First, they want aspiration. They want the gorgeous cinematic lifestyle imagery that makes them feel like they're, a gourmet chef cooking in a rustic Italian villa. But almost instantly, their logical brain kicks in and they demand extreme practicality. They need to know the exact dimensions, the core materials, whether the handle gets hot, and the maximum oven-safe temperatures.
So what does this all mean? Think about it like walking into a physical Williams-Sonoma showroom. When a customer walks into a premium store, the sale is tactile.
Right. They can touch it.
They pick up the heavy cast iron skillet to feel the weight in their wrist. They feel the ergonomic balance of the knife handle. They see the exact brushed finish of the steel under the bright lights.
Yeah.
Because your online Shopify buyer cannot touch or feel your heavy product, your product detail page, your PDP, has to do incredibly heavy lifting.
Absolutely.
The imagery, the detailed spec tables, and the gritty real-world photo reviews have to entirely replicate that physical sensory experience digitally. If you just slap a photo and a price tag on a white background, they will bounce.
They need proof that it works in a real kitchen, not just a studio. The playbook heavily emphasizes the necessity of a 30-second video demo of the product in action, situated right at the top of the page. Crucially, though, this video should have no voiceover.
It's just the sizzle of the steak,
Yeah.
the clinking of the spatula against the ceramic.
Exactly. It's about tapping into the visual and auditory sensory experience of the cooking itself. And this ties into the massive industry shift toward user-generated content, or UGC. Highly polished studio photography is no longer enough to build trust.
People see right through it.
They do. The playbook recommends a strategy of seeding 20 to 30 micro-creators with free products in your second week of business. You aren't paying them thousands of dollars. You just want them to film themselves cooking a real, messy Tuesday night dinner on their iPhones, providing raw, authentic proof that the pan works.
And we have to talk about how you actually generate that first $10,000 in revenue, because founders get this completely backwards. Everyone thinks Facebook and TikTok ads do all the heavy lifting. And I mean, it's true that paid social campaigns might drive roughly 60% of your early revenue. But there is a massive catch.
Yes,
Those ads will consume about 85% of your total marketing budget.
This raises an important question. If Meta is eating all your cash, Where does the actual profit come from? The data clearly shows that 26% of a healthy brand's revenue comes from Klaviyo email and SMS flows.
Like automated emails.
Exactly. Things like automated abandoned cart reminders, post-purchase care guides explaining how to season the cast iron, and replenishment emails alongside organic word of mouth. The crucial detail here is that this 26% of revenue comes in at a near zero marginal cost.
Right, because once a customer gives you their email address, you aren't paying Mark Zuckerberg $40 every time you send them a message.
This introduces a vital financial concept called blended C versus channel CAC. Founders often panic when they look at their meta advertising dashboard and see that Facebook ads are costing them an exorbitant $40 for a single purchase. In isolation, that looks completely unprofitable based on our earlier math.
It's like a baseball team's batting average, right? You might have an expensive star player, your meta ads, who costs $40 a click and strikes out a lot. But you can't just look at that one player in a vacuum. You have to blend that expensive $40 acquisition cost with the cheap players, the customers who found you through free organic TikToks, people doing Google brand searches, and those zero-cost automated email flows.
That's a great analogy.
When you average the entire team's performance out, your blended customer acquisition cost across the whole business might be a highly profitable $22. You have to manage the entire marketing portfolio and trust the blended math, rather than panicking over one single platform's expensive dashboard.
It is a finely tuned system where every single piece has to work in perfect harmony. If you ignore the physical weight of the product, the spreadsheet math breaks. If you ignore the emotional aspiration of the buyer, the marketing breaks. It is not for the faint of heart.
This has been an incredibly eye-opening journey through the grueling back end of e-commerce. To wrap it all up for you, if you want to actually survive and build wealth in the kitchen category, skip the messy generic catalog entirely and carve out a sharp, specific sub-niche.
Absolutely.
You must obey the 50% contribution margin rule, which means you have to ruthlessly factor in the heavy freight costs and the inevitable 10% returns into your spreadsheet before you launch. You have to fiercely vet your suppliers to avoid middleman traders and devastating Prop 65 compliance lawsuits. And finally, you have to let automated email flows and authentic, real-world, user-generated content drive your actual profit margins, while the expensive ads just get people in the door.
Spot on.
Which leaves us with one final, deeply fascinating psychological puzzle from the source material. The playbook highly recommends that successful brands build a refurbished outlet collection right there on their Shopify store.
Oh, yeah.
The operational idea is to take those lightly used, maybe slightly scratched customer returns that we talked about earlier and sell them at a 30 to 40% discount. This allows the brand to recover about 70% of the initial manufacturing cost instead of taking a total financial loss on the return.
It's a brilliant, necessary operational maneuver to save cash flow.
But think about what that means for human psychology. We just spent this entire deep dive talking about how modern consumers are driven by lifestyle aspiration. We established that they are buying a pristine, Instagram-perfect brand fantasy of being a gourmet chef in a beautiful kitchen. Yet the hard sales data shows that these exact same consumers are perfectly willing to buy a stranger's lightly used, visibly scratched cookware just to get a 30% discount. Does that mean the practical physical utility of the tool ultimately overpowers the pristine, expensive brand fantasy we worked so hard to build?
It's a wild contradiction.
It really is, and it's something for you to look out for the next time you are shopping online and see that beautiful, glossy, aesthetic ad that might just be hiding some brutal, heavily calculated math underneath. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and keep exploring.